Good evening. Today I have the lovely Lisa with me. Hi, Lisa. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi Donna, thank you so much for inviting me along. I'm Lisa Cutts, I'm a crime writer. I've just written my 7th crime fiction novel. It's the first in a series of Cosy Crime. I was for 25 years a police officer, so I've previously written procedurals, which have been a fictionalised version of my day job of investigating. And I started to write Cosy Crime. One of my characters took retirement, and I thought, actually, I think I quite fancy that. So I followed him, and yeah, no looking back so far. So yeah, I wrote Murder in the Village, which is the first in a Cosy Crime series, and it's been writing them all, but I've been particularly enjoying this one because it's just a serious business. It's funny, but it has been a lot more fun just stuck in, having to make it as accurate as I
can. And have you always wanted to write?
Not really. It kind of started by accident. I think the thing was I didn't really know any other crime writers. I didn't know any writers really, and I was quite happy being a police officer. And then just over 10 years ago, I continue using her name in vain, but Elizabeth Haynes wrote many, many brilliant books, but her debut was Into the Darkest Corner. And I went on holiday just over 10 years ago and read it, and it's a fabulous book. And I, at the end, realised that she also worked for Kent Police, and she worked in the same building as me. She was in the office above me. I didn't know her. She didn't know me. We needed security passes to get into each other's offices, which we didn't have any right to be in there. So we passed each other by for I don't know how many years. And I contacted her. It was so much brilliant holiday. We devoured it in a day. And she said, would you like to meet and have coffee in our own time, obviously not taxpayers' time. And we became friends, and she's just the loveliest person. She encouraged me to write. And I think it wasn't so much I'd never wanted to be a writer. I didn't know anybody who was a writer, and I didn't even know how to kick that off and how to get started. But she was so enthusiastic and so passionate. I thought, I'm going to be a writer. So I went home, I'm going to write a book. And it was about murder, because that's what I was working on, and had been for well over the whole 25 years I was in Kent Police. I probably did about 14 things. And I thought, well, I haven't got to go far for research, let's be honest. But although I never ever used any of the actual murders I was working on as a basis for a story, it was that I thought, oh, I'm going to take advantage of getting this as accurate as I can. So it was never something I never thought, oh, I'm going to be a writer. But once I started, today I'm on the 3rd in the Belinda Penthurst series. So it's quite difficult to not be constantly trying to write or to take notes or plot or work out your next novel. You always try to think if you've got the ideas. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't.
So you said that you were a police officer for all those years. So what aspects of your job did you actually include? Obviously, you can include actual cases.
It was more about the police procedural side and also the teamwork. I mean, there's a huge team involved behind the scenes, which some people may appreciate, but mostly I think it goes a little bit unnoticed, and it's usually a DI or a DCI doing everything, and there's sort of one woman or one man police force who goes and does absolutely everything. And I know that it's important that readers want characters they can get behind. I completely get that, but it's never one person. It's always about the team. I was always really quite passionate to get people to understand. But obviously you do still need to have an understanding that, I mean, in total there can be a couple of hundred people
Yeah, I can imagine.
who work on a murder. 100 characters in the book, a bit overload. But I wanted to make sure people were at least aware of that, and how differently, and I understand why. But I also wanted people to understand the fallout of the murder, and how the family and the friends of the murder victims feel, and the police officers. Not as important, obviously, as the family and the friends of those that have been killed, but I wanted to get that aspect in, because sometimes I think that's overlooked. Not all writers do, and I know it's all about the thrill of finding who the suspect is and hunting down of police work and of crime fiction, but you of course want to find the culprit, but also there's a load of other stuff going on in the background. So I've tried to incorporate as much of that as I can. Paperwork is obviously never ended in the police, and to write a whole book about, and then we did some paperwork and then we put a file together would really not be very interesting. I completely get that. So I've tried to gloss over RoboCop, the new remake. He makes a reference to going to do some paperwork. That's how much we have paperwork. Even RoboCop does it.
I love it. And did you tell your colleagues that you were starting to write?
Yeah, well, the first thing I had to do was get clearance to be able to do it, because any other job or anything that may sort of bring you into trouble really at work, you have to through the police, police officers, civilians, any preference to do a second job, whether you earn any money at that job or not, whether it be dog sitting or whatever it is you want to do outside your actual role. You had to get clearance to do that, and I also thought, I don't want to be fired, and I also working on murders and then just turning those tragedies actual story. That's never what it was about. It was about showing people what goes on, what happens, how things are genuinely investigated. So I had to go through all that, and obviously had to go through my sergeant and then my inspector and make sure that that was okay and what I was doing was fine. And also, of course, I wanted them to myself it, and I had a couple of book launches, and I had a book launch last week for Murder in the Village, and which was great. They come along, buy the book, they tell me they read it. Mostly they give me good feedback. If I don't get any feedback at all, I just never ask, just in case. But now and again, someone will say they think they recognise themselves in it, or is that so and so in it? Especially if it's really not, it's genuinely not. Now and again, you pinch funny stories. I've nicked a few funny stories that people have told me about things they've been doing when they're out in inquiries, but I always ask them, is it all right if I use your story? And they go, yeah, great. And then put them in the acknowledgements. And some of them are like, oh, that's great. There was a couple of my colleagues went out to do an inquiry, and they left the house, and they didn't get very far. They kind of got down the road, just probably about half a dozen houses away. I said, what's that noise? And they both looked round, and the cat from the house they'd been in, so they had to go back and drop the cat off. And I said, do you mind if I use that? But I embellished it quite a lot, and they went on this really long journey, and then they realised the cat was there, and they went back, and then other events happened. So it's always quite nice to get people's permission to use those silly little stories, and then you can build on them and add them in. But so far, no one said no, you can't. They've all been quite happy to oblige.
Yeah, I bet.
Especially if there's food in it for them.
Yeah. And have any of your colleagues wanted to be characters?
Me, he's now retired, but he was a police officer, and then he went back to be basically a front counter. When you go into a police station, and the people on the front counter who advise you, give you answers to whatever your inquiries are, he was a front counter assistant, and he asked if he could be a character in there, which was quite handy actually, because I did have a couple of people coming into the police station, and it was quite good. And I then introduced the character in another book, So I have had, he asked, and I have had somebody else who wasn't a police officer who I approached and said, would you mind if I use you as a character in the book, because she worked for Bulgaria, her partner set up, and husband set up Street Hearts Bulgaria to rescue basically dogs in Bulgaria and to bring some of them back and rehome them. And I've got a dog theme running through it. So I said to her, can I use you as a character if that's okay? And I think she's listened to it rather than read it. And I'm hopefully she's happy with what I've done. But I did ask her permission, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, it's mostly been other people rather than colleagues. Colleagues haven't really been that forthcoming to be.
They're probably worried what you do with them.
It could be. I mean, I have always guaranteed people it would be nothing nasty, I promise. And you know, there are obviously, every book's got characters that you love or hate, and some unpleasant ones. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean everybody gets on with each other. There are occasions where people don't get on very well. It's all like any job. But yeah, I haven't gone to town on anyone.
Out of all the books you've written so far, do you have a favourite character?
The first two I wrote had a character called Nina Foster, who was the DC, and they were all from her point of view. And I did enjoy those because it was kind of, I got quite a lot of things out there that were bugging me at the time, so it was quite cathartic, really. But I have written. There's a character, Harry, really small cameo in the first book, a little bit more of a role in the second book, and then books 3 to 4, 3 to 6, which was books 1 to 4 in the Easterise series. He was the DI, and although it wasn't all about him, it was his team. And then he's the character I then retired, who's now moved down to a fictitious village that I've called Little Challam in Kent, and he's moved there. And he's probably the character that I've grown to enjoy writing. Although I should probably say Nina, because she was my very first character, and it was really great to write from her perspective. But as I say, she only in 2 books, he's in 7, so soon to be 8 and 9. So I guess it would be Harry.
And what's been your most fun scene to write, and what's been your most difficult?
I've had quite a lot of fun with mainly the banter between police officers, and I think probably it's been quite nice to have Harry and Belinda in the Belinda Penshurst Mysteries that kind of bounce off each other. That's all been great fun. I was mentioned Emma Smith earlier on from Street Hearts Bulgaria. There is a scene at the end where I did quite enjoy it, or towards the end, I did quite enjoy writing that, because they're all sort of asking each other questions, and it's one of the characters has been quite ridiculous, and the others are, what are you talking about? And that was great fun to write. I really did enjoy writing that. There's probably been lots of ones I've enjoyed writing, but I say I'm probably mentioning the ones that are the most recent. And then the most difficult ones, I wrote Mercy Killing, which is the first in the Easterise series, and although it wasn't about abuse of children, it was because I was working on historic abuse of children at the time, and I never ever for 1 second wanted to and wouldn't have done justice to taking the survivors' accounts of what happened and make that into a book. But it was always about what happened if that offender was murdered, and how would we feel as a team investigating that murder and trying to find who killed someone that was quite frankly a despicable human being that nobody really had any time or empathy for. And I think the whole book was actually quite difficult to write, because I wanted to do it justice for writing about what had gone on and what they'd gone through, but obviously it wasn't my tale to tell, so I was writing it from a different slant. So the whole book was quite tricky in that respect, to make sure that I was not crossing the line in any way, and say it was never, that was never my account to give, but I was trying to look at it from a police looking in perspective. So yeah, that was the hardest to write, I'd say.
Yeah, I can imagine, but it must have been satisfying when you finished. Must have been one of the most satisfying.
It was absolutely was. It was a you know, quite a relief of a feeling. Yeah.
And if you were to be a character in any of your books, which book would you choose?
Probably the latest one, probably Little Challen, because it's just, despite all the murders, so very nice. There's lots. It's a lovely village with lots going on, lots of really great people, and a nice close knit community. So I think probably that would be the best one for me if I was a character.
And hopefully you'd have more chance of making it to the end as well, yeah?
I hope so. I hope so. For a small population, there's an alarming murder rate.
Despite saying that you had quite a lot of knowledge, is there anything you found out when researching that you found really interesting?
Yes, I asked to go. Some people might think that all police officers have to go to a post-mortem, and it's not something that you have to do. I hadn't been to one, and I did ask if I could go, and it was quite it really wasn't an unpleasant experience. It was very professional, I suppose is the word, and I kind of surprised myself because I don't think I ever would have done it if it hadn't. I was quite upfront with the senior investigating officer when I said, "Can I come to the post-mortem?" He said, "Is this research for a book?" And I said, "Yes," because I thought, I can't lie. Yes, it is research for a book. And he said, "Yeah, okay, meet me at the morgue." So I did, and it was just really. It was the amount of dignity that went into the whole thing. It was a young, in the book, in reality, just the whole dignity of how he was treated really was just quite humbling.
Oh, that's lovely.
The internet's at it again.
Yeah.
It's Sunday night, perhaps everybody's watching telly or something, not telly, watching something on the internet.
Yeah, we shall persevere, it's fine. But I totally forgot what I was going to ask you next now. Oh, I remember. Do you have any fears or phobias, and would you write about them?
I don't really think that. No. I don't say I'm fearless, but there's nothing particular scares me. Not the world, did I? That makes me sound like I've got no worries in the world.
Well, I imagine.
True, but nothing's, I haven't got spiders or. Oh, sorry, Don, let me cut out again. Sorry.
That's what I was going to say. I imagine with your job, you've seen some of the most horrendous things anyway. So once you know that you can deal with them, then there's not much that can scare you.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's like anything. There's situations that you're aware of as well. Because I've been a police officer, because I'm a woman, you get on a train at night, you're probably more wary as a woman than you are perhaps as a man, what part of the carriage you sit in or what part of the train you sit in. So I think it's probably a little bit of both, a little bit of the job and a little bit of being a woman. And you know, traveling at night, but nothing that really petrifies me that I'm really concerned about. Good question, really good question, but I can't think of anything. I'll probably at the end of it afterwards, I'll think, oh yeah, actually, I really don't like whatever it is, but right now,
Well, if there's nothing that comes to mind, it can't be that terrifying. So
true, that's very true. Yeah.
And if you were able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you like to spend a day with?
Would probably be Agatha Christie. She is my favourite author. I think it'd be very, well, spending a day with her would probably just turn everything I've ever written and how I've been writing on its head and put me to shame. But I think she was a meticulous plotter and note taker, whereas I tend to be a little bit more winging it, and I think that would probably be very insightful to have a look at how she plotted her books and how she went about them. And of course that was all without computers as well, where she was handwriting everything, whereas the artist changed that. It's very easy to do. Whereas, you know, this was you know, somebody who just had notebook after notebook. So it's in person to speak to.
And if you were to meet any author now, who would you most fangirl over?
Oh, there's so many that I really, despite the crime element of what I write and what books I absolutely love, and I do follow her on Facebook, but she's probably somebody that if I met, I'd just say hello, because I would be a little bit so in awe of her. I wouldn't know what to say. I'd probably come across as a little bit rude and aloof because I'd just be a bit blown away. I'm sure she's lovely and really great and down to earth, but I think she's probably just told you that I do know quite a few crime writers because yeah, Harrogate is just so much great fun. I didn't go this year, but I'm going to go next year. And all the crime festivals, everybody's just so great and down to earth, and you just see people and you chat and you walk up to them, as you know, and everyone's like, oh hi, and they're, you know, so there's never any sort of, oh, this is a really famous author and here I am, you know, just down here. Now, that's past Harrogate. Everyone's very chatty and friendly and inclusive. So I suppose it's slightly different because I do know so many of them, and a couple of them have become good friends over the years. That's slightly different. But I'm sure if I went to any other festival that wasn't crime, whether it be, you know, a romantic novelist, I'm sure if you think they're going to be a little bit aloof, and they're far from it, really.
Yeah, I went to Harrogate and I loved it, and everyone's like, oh, we'll ask you who everyone is because you've interviewed so many, and I just was completely overwhelmed anyway, and I was like, I don't know. And there was like faces I recognised, but I didn't know why, and yeah, so, and then I went all shy and couldn't go up to people, which was crazy.
Yeah, they're all so friendly. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm going to bloody Scotland in a couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Yeah, another one that I've been meaning to go to for a couple of years. So people say that's their favourite because it's so good, but it's quite quite compact. I think, you know, Harrogate, as you know, is just massive, isn't it? And I think with bloody Scotland, it's very not intimate isn't the right word, but it's on a much smaller, all the good elements of Harrogate where everybody's just, you know, quite intense. So yeah, that'll be wonderful.
I hope so. It was a whim, so we shall see.
Yeah, oh no, I'm sure it will be.
And what do you like to do when you're not writing?
I I don't read as much as I'd like to, because I do find if I'm reading, it's always a lot more fun to sit and read someone else's book than it is the hard graft of sitting down and writing your own. But I do like gardening. And the weather's been a bit, well, I don't know where you are, but it's been a little bit rubbish here. But I do like to get out and get some gardening done. So that's pretty much, because I've only just recently retired with working full time and writing. I didn't really have a great deal of time for much else, if I'm honest. It was always a bit just get everything done and a bit of a tight timetable. So it's only been the last few months where I've been able to say, actually, I've got a bit of downtime. So I'll hopefully pick up on a few more nice hobbies, nice relaxing ones like gardening.
You won't, you'll just write, because it becomes an addiction. I know what you authors are like.
Sadly, I think you're probably right, but I'm going to try.
Even if you're gardening, your head will be like, oh, I wonder if that would work.
Yeah. You're right. I know some audio books when I'm on, so you know, and then you're just sort of doing some weeding, and then you stop in and listen to the cooking. So yeah, it's never ending.
Yeah, well, that's good, because then we get to read more of your amazing books, so it's all good for us readers.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm sure I've actually read one of your books as well, which is unusual. When I have my list of authors that I'm ready to interview, I'm like, I'd love to read, one of every author's books, and I'm just like, yeah, there's not enough time. But I'm sure I have actually read one of yours, so well, a while ago.
Oh, thank you.
I'll have to go back on Goodreads and see if I can find it. But yeah. I don't remember which one.
Yeah, you like it.
Yeah, I've already read 80 books this year, I think, and then God knows how many last year. I'm doing a degree.
Oh. Wow. What's that, 10 a month then you've read? 10 a month. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in my final year of my degree as well, so I was writing a dissertation. Madness.
Yeah. What's your degree in?
Forensic science.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard going. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And annoyingly, we never got to go to a post-mortem. We were told that we were allowed to, or that they're trying to arrange it, and then just never happened. And then COVID, so yeah. So yeah, fun and interesting.
Yeah, no, there will be. I'm sure you'll get a chance to get to one. They are. It wasn't how I perceived it to be. I thought it might be really unpleasant. It was far from it. It was quite. It took a really long time, but it was very interesting. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. Well, I need to retake a unit because I so hopefully. If you were to invite 4 famous people to a dinner party, who would you invite?
Oh, who would I invite? Agatha Christie would be one of them. Difficult one. I would probably have to go with predominantly authors. I think I would say H.G. Wells, George Orwell, Elvis Presley. There we go.
Awesome. That sounds like an amazing dinner party.
That would be quite mixed up, wouldn't it? All shook up. Yeah, that would.
Yeah.
Oh, see what they made of each other.
Yeah. Elvis is very popular all of a sudden, actually. Yeah, he'd be very busy.
He would be.
Bless him. Yeah.
Yeah, he would be.
And who was your first celebrity crush?
It was probably I would imagine it was George Michael. Yeah, I should imagine it probably was then. Yeah, George Michael.
Nice. Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, it's always interesting to see. Although I knew people would turn it back on me, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't remember.
Yeah, just think around about that age growing up, I was never really a fan of a lot of the other bands, and I was never really that much into actors and films then. So yeah, I guess it would be George Michael.
And can you watch Police and those sort of shows on TV, or do they annoy you?
Mostly they do annoy me, I have to say. I do end up shouting at the telly a bit. I do get sometimes why they do what they do, because it's it's either convenient for the plot, or because you have to have the DCI, the DI doing everything because that's what people expect, and that's the character they want to see doing everything. But yeah, not they don't normally impress me that much, if I'm honest. I like the comedies. The comedies are always brilliant. Things like Thin Blue Line, and I don't know if you remember the Jasper Carrot, Robert Powell detectives. I used to love that. That was just so funny. But yeah, I prefer the comedies much more to the dramas.
Yeah, two brilliant series actually, and very unknown and underappreciated, I would say. But I love the Thin Blue Line. It's so silly, but it's just great.
Really.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, I might have to see if I can find it actually. It's just, yeah, bless. If you're able to travel to any period in time, either forward or back, where would you go?
Yeah. Sorry, you broke up then, Donna.
But the internet. If you're able to travel to any period in time, forward or back, where would you go?
Oh, blimey. I don't really know. I don't know if I really want to know too far into the future, especially at the moment. It'd probably be back, but I wouldn't want to go back too far. Probably 80s, 90s, because that was sort of the time I was a teenager in the 80s, and it, I perceive it as being really fun time. Other people might have thought the 80s were horrendous, but I thought they were good fun. So probably the 80s.
That's a surprisingly popular choice. So yeah, I wouldn't blame you. Although someone wanted to go to the day that the world ended, but not to die as the world ended, but to see how it ended, which was weird, but each to their own, I guess.
Yeah. A bit like a Doctor Who episode, that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather not, just in case it's a lot sooner than we all think.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, imagine it's like 10 years or something. Oof.
Yeah, no. Ignorance is bliss.
Yes, absolutely. We'll just keep going. So are you working on anything at the moment, and do you know what you're doing next?
I've got the second in the Belinda Penshurst Mysteries coming out in December, which is Murder at the Castle, and then the third is out in April, which is the one I'm currently writing, but I've only just started. We've only got a working title. That's how I've plotted it. I've just got to write it. So after that, I've got a few ideas, but I'm just going to see how things go for now. But yeah, one or two more ideas for Belinda Penshurst Mysteries, and then another couple of ideas that have just come pinged into my brain. But that's about as far as I've got really with them.
Awesome. Well, I don't think I have any more questions, unless you think there's anything I haven't asked you that you want to tell us.
No, I don't think so, Donna. Thank you. Brilliant questions. Thank you. That was really made me think on a Sunday night. That doesn't normally happen. I'm normally just sitting in front of the telly. No, brilliant. Thank you ever so much. But no, that's wonderful.
It's made me think as well. So before we go, would you like to just remind everyone where they can buy your books from and where they can find more about you?
There's all my books are available on Amazon, especially the most recent one, Murder in the Village. It's primarily on Amazon. The others are available, the Never Forget, Remember, my first couple, and Mercy Killing, Buried Secrets, Lost Lives and Don't Trust Him. They're all on Amazon or available through Kobo or bookshops, any independent bookshop, be able to in. And if you want to find out more about me, please follow me on Twitter or on Facebook and Instagram. I don't have a website, but I do have if anyone wants police procedural questions answered, I do a monthly column in Writing Magazine, which is just that people email me, and if I can get back immediately I will, but sometimes it's a few days before I can reply, and I'll reply to your emails, and then if you want to use your question in Writing Magazine, it'll appear in there. So please do get in touch.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks ever so much.